In Washington, the only work that never stops is politics.
I think what you're seeing in the Democratic Party now is a real turnover in leadership, right?
Heading toward this year's midterm elections, there is churn in the party and its politics.
You can lose your primary if you're deemed not sufficiently hostile to the other side.
I do think they're certainly moving to a hard left position in their core leadership.
This week, a look at the Democrat Party in uncharted political waters and the debate over direction.
Major cities are opening investigations into fraud involving billions of U.S. tax dollars. But ripoffs are not just urban problems.
When you realized what this scam involved and you realized who was being targeted, what did you think of that?
Oh, I was outraged.
We look at a cruel hoax in rural Montana.
And we visit one small town getting a big boost by cutting red tape.
What does free mean to you?
You're not burdened as a resident, as a business owner, or being burdensome as the government.
A place billing itself as the freest city in Tennessee.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. Kamala Harris is floating another presidential run. Eric Swalwell is forced out of Congress and the governor's race amid a sex scandal. And Democrats are heading into the 2026 midterms divided between the concerns of everyday working Americans and far-left priorities. As of today, they admit they have no clear leader or direction and are struggling to define a post-Trump identity. The November elections will decide control of Congress and could shape the emerging 2028 presidential contest. Today, we survey the landscape of the as-yet undetermined future of the Democrat Party.
What do you see as happening in terms of the direction and how that could impact or pull at the Democrat Party as a whole group that can have impact?
I think what you're seeing in the Democratic Party now is a real turnover in leadership, right?
Congressman Seth Magaziner is a Democrat from Rhode Island.
But having some turnover and some change in leadership is a healthy thing, and you're seeing that happen in the Democratic Party now. It can be messy, and it can be contentious at times, but ultimately it's a good thing.
Much of the messiness comes from the party's shift towards socialism and communism. Socialism and communism emerged in the early to mid-1800s, followed by a long and disastrous string of failures. The National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazis, advocated to abolish earned income and seize private property and industries, though historians today disavow the Nazis' socialist links. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or USSR, was the world's first communist country. Under the communist revolutionary Mao, there was China's great leap forward and cultural revolution, Cambodia under the radical Communist Party Khmer Rouge, Communist North Korea, Communist East Germany, Socialist Venezuela, and Communist Cuba, together resulting in tens of millions of deaths from executions, starvation, and political violence.
This is America, New York City.
Not long ago, openly embracing ideologies linked to those disasters could end a Democrat's career. Today, it's increasingly worn as a badge of honor.
Let's have a record-breaking turnout on Tuesday.
In the U.S., Bernie Sanders is the only senator to openly identify as a Democratic socialist. Once dismissed as a marginal figure, he proved remarkably popular when he challenged Hillary Clinton in the 2016 presidential race. The Democratic Socialists of America reports approximately 250 of its members or endorsed candidates now hold elected office across 40 states, with 90% elected in the past 6 years.
And we must chart a new path,
including New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist.
I do think they're certainly moving to a hard left position in their core leadership.
Chip Roy is a lead Republican in Congress.
I certainly think that we've seen some fairly extreme left candidates popping into the front of the Democrat Party. We saw it obviously in New York with Mamdani. We saw it in the recent congressional election, even in Nashville, Tennessee. There was no real gray area about whether either of those candidates are coming from.
Many of today's Democrat leaders stand behind extreme transgender policies, gender denial procedures for children, male access to female sports, bathrooms, and women's prisons, and illegal immigration, while opposing voter ID and deportation of criminal illegal immigrants. It's a big turnaround. In 1993, Senate Leader Harry Reid, a Democrat, backed legislation to end automatic birthright citizenship for children of illegal immigrants.
If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship. No sane country would do that.
In 2009, Reid's successor, Democrat Chuck Schumer.
Illegal immigration is wrong, plain and simple.
But today, Schumer leads the Democrats' resistance to border security and the SAVE Act, requiring proof of citizenship and voter ID.
The SAVE Act is nothing more than Jim Crow 2.0. If the SAVE Act were to become law, online registration, registration by mail, and registration drives would become a thing of the past.
Some high-profile Democrats are calling out what they see as madness.
We as Democrats nationally, from Latinx to defunding the police to police organizations are all racist to bringing a set of cultural wars to our schools. We are on the losing side of those cultural wars, full stop.
When then the Vice President Harris referred to President Trump as a fascist, and I knew absolutely we lost the plot at that point.
Senator Angus King is an independent from Maine who usually votes with Democrats. What are some of the conversations you're having with your Democrat and maybe even some of your Republican colleagues in the Senate as these things are developing and decisions are being made about what to do?
What I've seen is you can now lose your primary, not because of your position on immigration or abortion or whatever it is. You can lose your primary if you're deemed not sufficiently hostile to the other side. In other words, you're a dead duck if you're viewed as somebody who's willing to listen to the other side and try to find a compromise solution. That's dangerous if you think about it, because people come here, none of these major problems can be solved without compromise. Nobody has all the right ideas. But if you come here afraid to talk, think about what does that do to the Congress? Paralysis. Can't solve problems.
Prominent Democrats, including Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Manchin, and Kyrsten Sinema, have left the party, citing its sharp leftward shift. Kennedy and Gabbard endorsed Trump and joined his administration. Democrat Seth Magaziner.
I think they're seeking new faces, for sure. And by the way, I mean, Trump, even though he's someone who I disagree with on almost everything, there are certain issues where he moderated himself compared to the prior establishment Republicans, right?
Right.
Like
he is not far right on a lot of stuff.
Well,
in fact, he's more like a Democrat on some issues.
Well, right. I mean, like he's far right, too far right for me on a lot of things, and particularly on rule of law issues, which concern me deeply. But he doesn't talk about cutting Social Security the way even Mitt Romney or Paul Ryan did, right? And so, similarly, on the Democratic side, I think you will see new leaders emerge, and they already are emerging. And again, it's not about moving to the left or to the center. It's about new faces, it's about new voices, and it's about having the courage to break from the orthodoxy.
I think independents in both parts of the spectrum are growing. I also think the sleeper area to watch is those who are moving towards the libertarian space.
Ron Wyden is a lead Democrat in the Senate.
Do you have any thoughts just about where the party's headed and where the party's going today?
I do. The best politics are good policy. I think the American people, and I hear it in my town hall meetings, I've had more than 1,100 open to all town hall meetings, that people want to see elected officials stand up. I do a few things that are different. For example, at those town hall meetings, I just finished 5 in areas where Donald Trump got more than 70% of the vote. So they're very red, bright red. And I talk to them, or really listen to them, talk about health care because they're seeing that their rural hospitals are going to get flattened. So my counsel to everybody who's thinking about the politics of 2026 is the best thing you can do for your politics is do your job and get out and listen. Listen, listen, listen.
Looking to the next presidential election, the Democrats' early contenders underscore the party's internal tug-of-war. California Governor Gavin Newsom leads some early polls.
The Democratic Party needs to be, dare I say, more culturally normal. I believe that. Less prone to spending disproportionate amount of time on pronouns, identity, politics. More focused on tabletop issues.
Other names in the mix include Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, former Obama official Pete Buttigieg, and Kamala Harris.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it.
After years of sharp left turns and policies at odds with many of their own voters, Democrats find themselves in search of a post-Trump identity and strategy. The midterms will test how well they're coming up with that.
And I feel very awkward because I don't feel like it's my job to advise the Democrats or anybody else for that matter. But I think a kind of return to the working class roots of the Democratic Party, common sense issues that are of concern, whether it's inflation or the concerns about immigration. Remember they said Kamala Harris will be the border czar, but there was never any czaring going on. And I think that was a case where the Democrats were preoccupied with other issues and not really realizing how powerful that was and how concerning it was to people all over the country.
If you want to hear more on the story, check out my podcast, Full Measure After Hours. Coming up, 9,000 tax dollars a day for luxury rehab? A follow the money mystery. In a shocking health care scheme under Obamacare, you paid $9,000 a day per addict for months to put hundreds into luxury drug rehab. But not only did the patients not get treatment, some of them are now missing. Scott Thuman follows the money.
On the edge of Glacier National Park sits Browning, Montana, home of the Blackfeet Nation and one of the largest reservations in the U.S. As on many tribal lands, the Blackfeet Nation has been plagued by addiction. Many suffer severe drug or alcohol problems. That's one reason fraudsters have targeted people here and on other reservations with an audacious scheme that state investigators just uncovered. James Brown is Montana's state auditor and insurance commissioner.
When you realized what this scam involved and you realized who was being targeted, what did you think of that?
Oh, I was outraged, totally outraged. When we found out that Native Americans who are often not protected by anybody were the target of this, we made it the focus to act on this quickly.
This is how the scheme worked. Recruiters were sent directly into Native American areas offering free luxury drug and alcohol rehabilitation treatment under taxpayer-subsidized Affordable Care Act insurance policies. Patients who signed up were flown out of the state, often to Southern California. But when they got there, they found little or no treatment, while the Obamacare insurance companies were billed up to $9,000 a day for each person.
Up to $9,000 a day. That's a big number.
It is a big number, and if you times that out by 90 days, which is the period with which they could provide the treatment, plus we've determined at this point there are probably up to 200 victims of this coming out of Montana. You can imagine that number grows pretty quickly.
What made the fraud easier to perpetrate is a loophole in ACA plans that allows Native Americans to sign up at any time.
So for the Indian health plans through the Obamacare, In order to encourage more people to sign up for that, they did away with the enrollment period, so you don't have to wait for the 2-month period at the end of each year to sign up. It's a rolling enrollment period, so this is why the scheme is particularly targeting Native Americans, because they can do it throughout the year.
It was one of Montana's 3 nonprofit insurance companies that runs ACA plans that first sounded the alarm about questionable claims from out-of-state addiction treatment centers. Ted Badon led the team of investigators tasked with unraveling the fraud.
They understand how insurance works. They understand what different policies are out there, which ones are most susceptible to the risk. They understand how to operate within a state and to operate outside of states so that they can continue the scam without any state jurisdiction or authority from state to state.
Had you come across a scheme before this elaborate?
Not this elaborate, not in Montana. They get better every year. We're already seeing them change and adapt to the actions that we took. So it's amazing, like, the amount of intelligence that's going in to try to continue this scheme.
It is a scheme that investigators say went way beyond just taking money from victims here in the Blackfeet Nation and other tribal communities. They say it has a much darker side and one they'd never come across before. Compounding the financial fraud, patients were eventually kicked out and left on California's streets, some still missing as of this interview. Brown says it amounted to human trafficking.
They left them with no way to get home?
That's correct. And so this is a form of human trafficking, in my mind, taking someone out of Montana, transporting them across state lines, taking them to Southern California, and then literally dumping them on the street without any way to get back.
Investigators in Montana were able to stop nearly $24 million in payments, but they believe the fraud could involve nearly $55 million in unjustified claims. And Montana wasn't the only state targeted. Similar schemes have been reported in Oklahoma, Arizona, Alaska, Florida, and California.
How long do you think they've been getting away with this?
Oh, I think at least 5 years, 6 years, U.S.-wide. In Montana, we've been able to identify it probably started around the end of 2024. But the bigger problem here, I think, is the size and scope of federal programs just continued to grow and grow and grow. And so these fraudsters are going to look at not only trying to defraud Obamacare or the ACA, they're also looking at defrauding Medicaid programs across the West.
So you're saying the bigger the government gets, the more targets there are for criminals?
Absolutely.
The auditor's office is now working with the Department of Justice and the FBI to try to build criminal cases against the perpetrators. For Full Measure, I'm Scott Thuman in Montana.
Ahead on Full Measure, we'll visit one of the freest cities in America. Freedom to start a business, keep more of your money, and manage your property without burdensome government restrictions. If that sounds like your kind of place to live and work, you might want to start packing. Lisa Fletcher takes us to the freest city in Tennessee.
This might look like an average American city with its big box wholesale stores and industrial parks. But there's more going on here than meets the eye. Welcome to Laverne, Tennessee, a town built on the idea that freedom isn't just a word, but a way of doing business, earning it the title of the freest city in the state.
What does free mean to you?
You're not burdened as a resident, as a business owner, or being burdensome as the government. And so it's being open, transparent, and being able to work with anyone.
Mayor Jason Cole has been guiding Laverne's course since 2018. The city of 40,000 sits about half an hour southeast of Nashville. While Music City has all the fame and fanfare, it landed at the bottom of the state's freest list. This is the second time Laverne has been at the top, each award earned under Mayor Cole's leadership. The Beacon Center, an independent research group, ranks the state's 30 largest cities in Tennessee based on how local policies impact people's everyday lives, from taxes and property rights to business regulations and individual liberty.
We're a very welcoming community where when it comes to businesses, our policy is very simplistic. We want to help you get in, get through our planning commission, and then get you to the point where you can start construction. And then really we want to get out of their way so that they can do what they do best.
And that approach, says Cole, is sparking a boom in both Laverne's business community and its population.
If we grow our sales tax by bringing in new businesses, it makes it so that we don't have to increase our property tax. We're not having to go to that well and say to our residents, we need more money.
The open field near these homes under construction is the next phase of new housing, hundreds of units with the promise of affordability.
Our last property tax increase was 11 years ago, and since then it's been cut twice.
As a small business owner, Dave Power knows about balancing act. He builds custom delivery truck bodies, those boxes you see on moving and delivery vehicles. Power says part of his recipe for success is having his manufacturing business based in Laverne.
Would you have a bigger business headache if you were based in Nashville or Murfreesboro?
Oh, 100%. Day one, we asked for what were our restraints, and we were met with not too many, quite honestly. When we first started, we were 15, 20 people. Now we've got 65 or 70 people, right? We could not have grown 7 or 8 times like we have in the last 10 or 12 years without the ability to get people to help us do that.
Power says he's been on a hiring streak and is optimistic for what lies ahead as this city's unique brand of freedom puts Laverne on the map.
What are you most proud of here?
I'm proud of how our city is growing and developing. So we go to conferences. It's not, where's Laverne? Where is that? It's people know where we're at. They're coming to us looking for locations in our community to invest in.
For Full Measure, I'm Lisa Fletcher in Laverne, Tennessee.
After a break, what's ahead next week on Full Measure? Coming up next week on Full Measure, you may have heard high-profile politicians blame California's wildfires on climate change. We head to the Golden State to report on the hard reality, the human factor behind California's most devastating wildfires, next week on Full Measure. Until next time, we'll be searching for more stories that hold powers accountable. Thanks for watching. I'm Sharyl Attkisson.